11:11. Make a wish. Wish for the end of Trumpism. Happy 11:11. Make a wish. Wish for the end of Trumpism. Happy 11:11. Make a wish. Wish for the end of Trumpism. Happy 11:11. Make a wish. Wish for the end of Trumpism. Happy 11:11. Make a wish. Wish for the end of Trumpism. Hello, welcome to the live. This is Church of Judas Live, talking about how to end Trumpism with Jesus. How Jesus is going to help us end Trumpism in every way, but specifically the Church of Judas, and we'll get into that. I also been inspired by seeing the Testament of Ann Lee yesterday and Dracula, both of which are very much related to the subject of sex and Jesus. So sex and Jesus. We're going to talk about sex and Jesus and how the pro-sex Christianity replaces the anti-sex Christianity of the first 2,000 years, and how we're going to win. How this turnaround of adding sex, adding women, adding the feminine back into Christianity, or I shouldn't even say adding it back into Christianity, repurposing Christianity with those principles, repurposing Christianity around the goddess. So we know Jesus is from the goddess because that's why he has the secret conversation with Judas. I should probably prepare my book for reading samples potentially, so I don't have to reach over here in the middle of the conversation. Here's my book, which contains the Gospel of Judas. I put all the excerpts from the Gospel of Judas in the book, such as, "This is the secret message of judgment Jesus spoke with Judas Iscariot over a period of 8 days, 3 days before he celebrated Passover." So since we just started at the beginning, I'll pick up there and continue going. If you have any questions, we'll answer them. Shadow Band doesn't really count. He's one of those people, one of those lives that doesn't matter. So we'll just read a little bit more. "When he appeared on earth, he did signs and great wonders for the salvation of humanity. Some walked in the way of righteousness, but others walked in their transgression. So the 12 disciples were called." He started to tell them about the mysteries beyond the world and what would happen at the end. Often he didn't reveal himself to his disciples, but you'd find him in their midst as a child. Okay, so Jesus literally turning into a kid is very much exclusive to the Gospel of Judas. Jesus doesn't turn into a kid in other Gospels. Jesus turns into a kid, and Judas knows he's a kid in the Gospel of Judas. This is something that relates to other things. When Jesus says, when Jesus says, "Let the children come," or to treat children or immigrants or others like you would treat him, he literally means it because it might be him, or it is him. There's different ways of looking at that. So Jesus appearing as a child is news probably to you. I probably should open with that. No. I mean, I did end up opening that. With the Gospel of Judas opens with that. So it's one of the first things they tell you that lets you know, hey, here's some stuff about Jesus you didn't know before. The fact that he appears as a child sometimes. Kind of reminds you of Trump and all the evil things he does to kids. So we end up with the completely opposite idea of Jesus because we have an antichrist Christianity. Christianity is itself antichrist. So when we have the complete opposite idea of Jesus, we end up with evil beings like Trump, evil antichrist leaders. The good thing about them is you just reverse everything they say, think, and do. Reverse anything they say, think, and do, and you get something good. You get Jesus, because everything they say, think, and do is evil, with no exceptions. I would defy anyone in the chat, if there's anyone in the chat, would defy anyone in the chat to point out something they do that's not evil. And we can just look at how the reverse of it is actually good and true. So I'll read some more of the Gospel of Judas while I wait for people to show up. I was in a live where some guy was claiming to complain about Scientology. I'm like, you want to replace Scientology and Mormonism and all Christian and Christian offshoot religions? We can talk. No, we couldn't talk. they would not allow this discussion, so I figured I'll go live and discuss it myself. Often he didn't reveal himself to his disciples, but you'd find him in their midst as a child. I'll read my part. Can I just type the collective, "Well, what?" that I hope we are all experiencing as we read and falling out of our booster seats? Seriously, Jesus wasn't a man sometimes, but was a kid instead, like even a little toddler? Or even like a little toddler? You could say that being like a child is a mystical attribute, like Crazy Horse after he had a vision of Crazy Horse that made him turn into Crazy Horse, when he never talked to adults anymore. Only rarely in jokes, but only spoke to children. Or how L. Frank Baum wrote the Oz books for the young and young at heart, because the childlike wonder is part of the mystical state of appreciation of being. But it's not just a mood or an attitude that Jesus had. This is saying they did not even know it was him, because instead of him as an adult, it was him as a kid there amongst them. This is just amazing. One thing that makes it amazing is no one else ever mentions it. Is it just too strange? Raising the dead and stuff, maybe we're strange enough or something people could wrap their heads around. It's been 2,000 years and I read comics and play video games and watch anime, some of which are about kids you can turn into adults or anything can turn into anything. But I still am grasping with this idea, Jesus doing this and what it means. And I read this a decade ago and forgot all about this most astonishing part. Why did Jesus sneak around hiding himself from his disciples in the form of a kid? It's just such a strange twist. It is possible that the phrase, "he did not reveal himself to his disciples," could not be as literal as I'm taking it. It is more he was not serious with them, but more playful as a child. But it really seems to suggest he was running around, and they didn't know it was him, because he was magically a young child instead of a man. This reminds me of something I usually forget when I think about Jesus and the 12 disciples. I imagine them like a Boy Scout troop or the Fellowship of the Ring, a group of guys on this journey. And they are a group of guys, but there are also other guys and women and kids running around. If it was just 13 of them in a group, but all of a sudden there was one kid there, one of them was a kid, and Jesus was missing, it would be pretty obvious to them all that Jesus was turning himself into a kid. But the way this is written suggests the whole crowd of people around the disciples often included kids, that when Jesus was in kid form, no one knew or expected it was him. This just may be something he told Judas that no one else figured out, and a way for Judas to show, when he wrote this, or told the story, how much secret trust Jesus actually had, that he knew something no one else knew. I also wonder why this page 33 of the original manuscript, the only part of it we have, but it seems like it starts at the beginning. Were the first 32 pages a different gospel or multiple other gospels? But this one was separated and hidden in a jar it was put in, the cave was hidden in for a reason? What will we find when, hopefully, we find the other pages, or these pages again, but with the part that this copy is missing? Hopefully these will be among the treasures unearthed from the Cave of Horror last month, or in the future. That was years ago when I wrote this, but if Jesus turned himself into a child, was he spying on the disciples? Was he an alien, and the child form was his natural size, but he could expend energy to be tall and bearded? Was he turning into a child for another reason? It implies that part of the reason he did it was to be hidden from his disciples so they would know it was him. Was this so he could even spy or test them, to see how they would react to him when they didn't know it was him? I don't think there are any examples in this account of anything he did while he was a child, so it's hard to say for sure, but it certainly is interesting and seems to be another kind of confirmation that Judas and only Judas was told some of these things about Jesus. Good evening, Vendetta. This is my book. I'm reading from my book, although the part I'm about to read is the Gospel of Judas. This is probably what Judas wrote about his secret conversation with Jesus. This is the section called Jesus Criticizes the Disciples. So this is Gospel of Judas. Then I'll read what I wrote. I'll tell you when I get switched back to my voice. One day he was with his disciples in Judea. He found them sitting together, practicing their piety. When he came to his disciples, sitting together, praying over the bread, he laughed. The disciples said to him, "Master, why are you laughing at our prayer? What have we done? This is what's right." He answered to them and said to them, "I'm not laughing at you. You're not doing this because you want to, but because through this your God will be praised." So the part I said, that's all from the Gospel of Judas. The part I said was, first I want to point out that even though he just mentioned Jesus appearing as a child and the disciples not knowing who he is in the next story, it tells they clearly know who he is. And not sorry. First of all, I want to point out that even though he just mentioned Jesus appearing as a child and the disciples not knowing who he is, in the next story, it tells they clearly know who he is, know that it is him and not some kid. This makes it stand out even more that the author says he appeared as a child, because that information is presented on its own, not as a setup for the next part, unless it is saying he laughed at them like a child laughs at things. So this reminds me so much of my best friend in college and roommate Joe. He was like Jesus in many ways, I suspect. He was a deadhead and just had his insightful way of talking to people that was more truthful than anyone else. I've never met this particular story of anyone else I've ever met. This particular story of Jesus reminds me of a time I went hiking with Joe and he saw some kids and mentioned to me that their style, novel at the time with skinny jeans and trucker caps, was something they got from the movie Dogtown Nights. This was in 2005, so a few years later this style was all the rage, and I guess it is still somewhat in fashion, but I had not seen the movie, so I had to take his word for it. But when they passed us, he called out to them and asked them if they got their style from the movie Dogtown Nights, and they said yes. That is the movie they got their style from. It reminds me of Jesus telling his disciples, this is not really you, just an idea you got from somewhere. Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for the comments and reactions. So the next part is from the book of Judas. They said, Master, are you the Son of our God? Jesus said to them, how do you know me? Truly I say to you, no generation of the people among you will know me. Doesn't sound like a yes. When they asked him, Master, are you the Son of our God? Jesus didn't really say a hard yes or anything close to a yes. He said, you don't know me. He basically said, you don't know where I came from. Your God is fake, is what he's basically saying in a polite way. When his disciples heard this, okay, this is my part. I said, what does it mean to say no generation of the people among you will know me? In a way, it suggests that no one in this generation will know him. But it also implies that a generation of people means something else than we think of it today. And maybe it means no one generated from the way the disciples understand him will ever truly understand him. But it may also be somewhat tricky language and not meant to be as insulting as the disciples took it, as we can see from the response to him, and his response in turn to them. And this is what the Gospel of Judas says next. When his disciples heard this, they started to get angry and furious and started to curse him in their hearts. But when Jesus noticed their ignorance, he said to them, why are you letting your anger trouble you? Has your God within you and his stars become angry with your souls? It's almost like he's saying different people have different gods in him. Jesus has got the goddess in him, and his disciples have a false and evil god in them that make them angry. Again, the previous line implies that no one that learns from these disciples will know Jesus. No one. And that's not the only implication of it, but it does suggest that no one who learns from any of these disciples will know Jesus. They'll learn the Antichrist. They'll learn from their evil and false god. Okay, this is from my description in the book. First, I would point out that Jesus identifies the ignorance of the disciples as the source of their anger. I believe it means that the whole confrontation over how they were praying over their bread and whether they can truly know him is the difference between the disciples, who are still practicing rituals of their religion, and Jesus, who was part of an elevated spiritual plane. It's almost like when they're doing their traditional praying for the bread ritual, he's saying, who are you praying to? I'm right here. And so they are ignorant of the fullness of the divine in him, or how present the divine is. And honestly, we are all always like this. We aren't looking for the divine in each other, or in trees and birds and clouds and everything, unless we are hippies or otherwise so inclined. But we should be. That is the whole message of Judas, to listen more fully and completely, and honor the way we are in the presence and are the presence of the divine. When Jesus asks him if their God has become angry with them and his stars, I first wonder how, if these words are missing, did the translator think to put his stars in there? Is that a thing? It seems like Jesus is mocking the idea that they are worshiping a God who directs things through his stars. For example, and also suggests that their God is their God, not his God. Two separate guys, or God and the goddess, as the case may be. It's intriguing that he asks if God is angry with them, and if his stars are angry with their souls. The stars of this God seem like generals or archons or archangels. It's hard to tell, but Jesus seems to be presenting a completely revolutionary idea of God than the ones they and their culture are used to. Maybe it is what he means by no generation will know him, that at any time the advanced level of consciousness that Jesus is on will be beyond our comprehension. Thankfully, in this case, we have Judas as an interpreter. So that, I didn't put it in there, but it also reminds me of like the alien interpretation of Jesus, that no human can understand this alien species, super advancement. The devil and the disciples, pretty much just, they have a false god. Ironic that they're the ones who said, the devil went into Judas. No, these guys always had the devil in them. Look at their churches. Look at the fruits they produced. All these evil and corrupt churches. Okay, this is back to the Gospel of Judas. If any of you is strong enough among humans to bring out the perfect humanity, stand up and face me. All of them said, we are strong enough, but their spirits weren't brave enough to stand before him. So they claimed to be strong enough, and they weren't. And here's what I wrote in the book. Here is a repeat of the same concept, that it is one to be able to say you will do something and another to actually do it. They all said they could because they all thought they could and wanted to stand up before him. They just couldn't do it. What is Jesus asking them to do when he says bring out the perfect humanity? My best guess is to show a strong spirit, a spirit grounded in the confidence of righteousness and goodness. Of course, everyone, especially the types who would be called to unfollow Jesus, wants to be a good and be good enough. But this is a particular challenge to match their power and spirit with Jesus, and none were up to it except... And then the next part of the line was, except Judas Iscariot. He was able to stand before him, but he couldn't look him in the eye, so he looked away. This is key for a few reasons. This is back to my interpretation. It shows that Judas did have this exceptionally strong spirit, stronger than the others, as the only one who could face Jesus. Strong as he was, he could not look at him but looked away. Now usually we get a bunch of trolls in here, right? Now you're the only one. There's only one person supposedly in here, and it's you. They can't handle it. They cannot handle the truth on certain levels. So I need to remember to read this more often. Strong as he was, he could not look at him but looked away. This makes the story believable that he is admitting humility. It also shows how the other disciples could have harbored resentment and jealousy of Judas. He's the only one who could stand up when Jesus challenged them that none of them could. They all wanted to be able to stand up, but he was the only one who could. Hopefully this jealousy was a reason why they would misreport the story to further diminish Judas by having him kill himself in their version. Hopefully he lived on. Otherwise, how did we ever get this record of the things that Jesus only told him? Unless Jesus told someone else that he told him after he came back. But I like to think, unless Jesus told someone else what he told him after he came back. But I like to think Judas lived, and we will have more evidence of that emerging. Some people have said Judas is Dracula. There's this Dracula-Judas connection, which is one reason I'm doing this, because I saw The Testament of Anne Lee, awesome movie, and Dracula yesterday, awesome movie. And they both relate to Jesus and sex in different ways. But enough to discuss that. I tried to do a live about it last night. There was nobody interesting in the chat, so it didn't turn into much of anything. I might pick back up on those topics now, but I'm having more fun reading this, so I'm going to continue. Jesus said to him, I know who you are and where you've come from. Judas said to him. This is back to the Gospel of Judas. I didn't write this part. Judas said to him, I know who you are and where you've come from. You've come from the immortal realm of Barbelo, and I'm not worthy to utter the name of the one who sent you. Then this is my explanation. We don't hear a lot about Barbelo these days. I went ahead and Googled it for us, and Wikipedia mentioned it is the first emanation of God in Gnostic cosmology, so the highest level of existence next to the divine. It says Barbelo is often depicted as a supreme female principle, the single passive antecedent of creation in its manifoldness. That was from Wikipedia. So, Judas seems to be giving Jesus the highest credit possible, the greatest reverence he can imagine. But what I don't emphasize at this point, but I think is a very important emphasis, is Jesus is from the goddess, Barbelo. And it's an important difference. Yeah, I saw a movie that the first vampire was Judas. What movie is that? That's interesting. Because I've heard that concept before, but I don't know, I haven't seen that movie. So I don't know where that concept comes from, or if the concept was introduced for the movie, or if it's an ancient church concept. Then Jesus This is back to the Gospel of Judas. Then Jesus, knowing that he was thinking about what's exalted, said to him, "Come away from the others, and I'll tell you the mysteries of the kingdom. Not so that you will go there, but you'll grieve much, because someone else will replace you to complete the 12 elements before God." One example of Jesus predicting the future, like the next week future. The rest of it is Jesus predicting the now future, the 2,000 years in the future. Okay, let me get back to the Ann Lee stuff for a minute. Unless you want to hear more of mine. Let me read more of the book, but you can always read the book on your own. So Ann Lee and sex. Ann Lee had mystical visions. Ann Lee had verifiably divine communication. But she also came away with some of these mystical visions. This is after having lots of babies who died, like 4 babies who died, getting imprisoned for preaching, just a rough life. And her conclusion was that these are punishments. I mean, honestly, you got imprisoned because you have a fascist government, but they're punishments that she's thinking were from God for sexuality. So she swore off sex, and her whole thing was to be against sex. So she has these verifiable visions. She has these divine visions, but the visions don't necessarily leave her. When she returns to the world, or when she's preaching these visions, she's anti-sex. Like, that's her main mission. That's her takeaway from it. A similar thing happened to the Public Universal Friend. Public Universal Friend became a preacher, and then they preached celibacy, complete celibacy. And their communities didn't spread to the rest of the world and stop everyone from having sex and grow that way. They all die out. So the anti-sex thing, to me, is obviously wrong. It's like, you can have a verifiably Jesus vision, and yet he won't clear up the part where it's okay for you to have sex. And maybe for those people, it wasn't going to be okay for them to have sex because they were too traumatized by it, things like that. That sex wasn't part of their Christianity, but their Christianity is part of a false Christianity altogether for being anti-sex. So this is the foundation of what's wrong with Christianity: patriarchy, anti-sex, anti-feminine, anti-woman. And that's all the same thing. Anti-sex, anti-feminine, sexism, it's all part of the same thing. There's a reason why, all the sexists and rapists are MAGA. They're all, like, all the racists and rapists and sexists are MAGA, or Trump Boutonniers, are right wing. There's a reason for that. It's all the same thing. They're all trying to hold together this world they've made, the rape-based economy, as Patton Oswalt joked. They're all trying to hold together the rape-based economy, while the rest of us are trying to have free everything. We're trying to have a completely different economy, or not an economy anymore at all. So, that's what we'll do. We'll have this collective thing that replaces patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism. And, we'll talk about it. I wrote this book about it, which really, every time I read this book, I'm kind of surprised. I'm like, wow, this book is really good. This book has got some really good stuff in it. But it's not as good as it could be. I'll get another book out there soon that says it better in a shorter way. A book we can just leave around churches. A book you can just drop off at a church and replace that church. Dracula 2000 by Patrick. Who's here? I don't think I saw it. I'll have to look it up. So the new Dracula movie is really good. I just saw the new Dracula movie, Dracula, A Love Story, I think it's called. It's really good. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And it was a secret movie, so I saw it in advance. The other stuff I'm talking about is talking about stuff in advance too. The replacement, repurposing of Christian church. The repurposing of the Christian church, the repurposing of Christianity. And I thought about that today, for people who deconstruct Christianity. Some people are deconstructing Christianity. And good for them, but it's like, you might as well go ahead and go next level with it and replace Christianity. Instead of just leaving yourself with the rubble, like instead of Gazaing yourself to deconstruct Christianity, this is like the orchard of repurposing Christianity. Replace Christianity with something much better immediately, instead of just deconstructing it for, to focus on all the evils. It's kind of like if you had, a therapist who was going to therapize you on all your traumas and stuff, but never talk about anything good. Never talk about it. Never connect to anything that can make you feel good in your life. Hello, Benny Royd. Hello, Steffelson. Nice to see you. We're talking about ending Trumpism by replacing Christianity. Church of Judas is the way to replace Christianity. Benny Royd, atheism's cool. Atheism is halfway there. Like, atheists are half right. Is like what I like to say. Atheists are half right. God is a dangerous lie. Like, your criticisms of God are correct and true and accurate. Dangerous lie. That doesn't mean Jesus isn't real. Jesus just isn't from that God. Jesus is from the goddess. And so, defying or removing, like seeing through God, well done. Good job. Although you're not required to do this. It's not like not like God's always trying to catch people. Not like God's always trying to slave catch people. You may believe in the goddess. If you choose to consider the goddess and believing in the goddess, you'll find that the goddess is the complete opposite of God. That all the things that sucked about God, because God sucks and is wrong, the goddess it's true and good about. So, yeah, I'm a witch. But I'm also Church of Judas. That's what I was talking about. I wrote this book, the Book of Judas, about the Church of Judas, which replaces all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism, which includes Scientology, Mormonism, all these offshoot cults that aren't really Christian, but they're offshoots. They emerge from a Christian ground. They all get replaced too. So I was in somebody's live where they're like criticizing Scientology. I was like, dude, I can tell you how to replace Scientology by replacing all Trumpism. They're like, we don't talk about politics here. It's like, dude, your cult, the cult that you're trying to criticize, is a farm team for MAGA, just like the Manosphere is a farm team for MAGA, just like, White Witch. I don't know. I didn't know this was a census. Fairy Witch. If you're asking about what type of witch I am, Fairy Witch. You could say Jesus Witch, because, yeah, Jesus is on our side. That's Mother Cabrini, the patron saint of immigrants. But hold on. This one, Jesus. Jesus is on our side. So, yeah. And we end Christianity. This is the Church of Judas for ending Christianity. Christianity was a trap. It was a trap by design. It was set out for 2,000 years to trap all these evil men and their evil patriarchy and their wars. Yes, fairy witch. So, and it's trapped them. Now it's time to clean the trap. Now it's time to repurpose the churches. So all the churches get repurposed because they're Antichrist, because they're patriarchy. Jesus is from the goddess. That's how you'll know the difference. Hello, the memester. Just doing a Church of Judas live, specifically Church of Judas. Now that you guys are here, I'll do the blessing for you guys. Goddess bless you, Mary bless you, Mary bless you, Mary bless you, Jesus bless you, Judas bless you, I bless you. Bless yourself. That's not rhetorical. Bless yourselves now. No, seriously, bless yourselves though. I'm doing great, thanks. How are you? Thank you, memester. I'm doing great. I'm just repurposing Christianity. I'm a little peeved because I went on somebody's live. I don't usually ever go on anybody else's lives, right? But I'm like, oh, let's see what lives are like on YouTube. And one of them was this lady against Scientology. She was going to speak out against Scientology at a LA, LA City Council meeting or something. And And, I told them, hey, you guys want to replace Scientology, replace all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism. Why are you guys, swinging for putt-putt golf when we're playing baseball here? Hit something. Like, you guys want to replace Scientology? This little peon? No, I'm talking about replace Christianity. Replace Christianity and replace Mormonism and Scientology and all the other cults that came out of it. Okay, to be honest, Scientology is the one that creeps me out the most. More than MAGA? That's the whole thing. Scientology is just a farm team for MAGA. The Manosphere is just a farm team for MAGA. All this stuff is just MAGA. It's just MAGA's non-MAGA brand tentacles to reel you in. Scientology is just MAGA. So if you want to end Scientology, end MAGA. End patriarchy. End Christianity. End war. All these things feed into war and patriarchy and evil. So end them. You end them with Jesus, with Judas, with Mary. You end them with the Church of Judas. So I can explain any of this stuff because I'm pretty much the expert on it. Let's read your comments. Doesn't that still create duality, which makes you part of the opposite? No. Like, I hate Trump. Is my hatred of Trump what keeps Trump in place? No. You see what I'm saying? Like, once he's gone, I'll still hate him. I'll still hate what he represented. Yeah, I think that there is the duality of good and evil. Jesus is good. Trump, the Antichrist, is evil. There's not really and the reverse of that is true too. It's just not. There's one side of these things. They misrepresent Buddhism and things like that in order to make it fit patriarchy and oppression. But I appreciate your question, Benny. Doesn't that still create duality, which makes you part of the opposite? It's like saying there's division in American politics. Both sides need to take the temperature down. No, this side needs to stop being Nazis. That's it. One side needs to stop being Nazis. We don't need to compromise with the Nazis so they can feel better. One side, the Republicans, need to stop being Nazis. And the other side, the Democrats, need to stop letting them be Nazis. Like, shit ain't hard. MAGA scares me. Scientology just creeps me out. Well, again, it's the same thing. Scientology is a wing of MAGA. All these, evangelicalism is a wing of MAGA. Zionism is a wing of MAGA. Groypers, Nazis, Klansmen, neo-Nazis, they're all wings of MAGA. It's all part of the same thing. It would be irresponsible and inefficient of Putin not to orchestrate it where it included everything. It would be inefficient if Putin failed to take advantage of all these different groups and how they can be the farm teams for MAGA. That's what they are, except for, gun lovers. The NRA was a farm team for MAGA, except for when he betrays gun lovers. When Trump betrays gun owners and executes Alex Preddy and declares a terrorist attack on the Second Amendment, and gun owners have to turn on Trump, does love need hate to exist? I don't see why. Love exists. Hate kind of exists. Hate is the existence that doesn't matter. The things that were done for hate, are swept away by time a lot faster than the things that were done for love are. I watched that Ann Lee movie where what she did was for love for Jesus. But it didn't include didn't include sexual, physical love because of patriarchy. As much as she became inspired and did something inspirational, did something that caused a movement, that created a church, the church died out because they were anti-sex. Jesus isn't anti-sex. That's an antichrist thing. That's a church thing. Anti-sex is a church thing, an antichrist thing, like Trump. I remember last time I did this live, because I did the same topic last night, but it didn't go very well, and there was nobody cool in the chat. So there was no main character. I'm still looking for main characters in chat. More main characters in chat. So yesterday I didn't really get into it. I think hate, it makes you so you truly understand love. You said, Benny, it's a good question. Does love need hate to exist? It's interesting to even say you truly understand love. Like, say something out of your understanding of love that hate produced for you. But yeah, I remember why I brought that up last night, live last night. I mentioned that Trump's anti-sex. People are like, Trump's not anti-sex. And I'm like, tell me a way that Trump's pro-sex. He's pro-rape. That's not sex. Trump's a rapist. And he's pro-sex trafficking. But he's not pro-sex. Sex trafficking is anti-sex. Like, this math isn't that hard to do. But, I will entertain the discussion. Benny says, I searched for a lost boy the other night with many people. That movement had nothing to do with any affiliation except connection, truth, and love for you, except for the MAGA who were searching for him were trying to kidnap him for a sex trafficking ring. Let's be clear. The reason that boy is missing is because a MAGA Trump-ooteneer kidnapped him. Like, that's most likely the case. They didn't find him, dude, because a MAGA kidnapped him. Didn't a MAGA kidnap him? Didn't a Trump-ooteneer kidnap that little boy? Isn't that what they do? So if we looked at it like, hey, all this was worth it, killing all those people, hurting all those people, all this time was somehow worth it because we trapped the kidnappers. We found out who was willing to kidnap for $50,000. And we've got them all in a group and in certain kind of masks. And we know what they look like. If we trapped them, and then it still wouldn't be worth it. I mean, it would be kind of worth it if you trap them. If you spring the trap, then it's worth it. Christianity, was any of it worth it? Well, if we spring the trap, then it becomes worth it. See how they obviously didn't find the kid? Because a Trump supporter stole the kid. Like, who are your local Trump supporters? Have you checked those Trump supporters' basements and attics? Okay, he was found safe. Okay, it took you long enough to tell us, but they said he was found safe. So he just got lost. But when kids get lost and MAGA picks them up for their sex trafficking rings, that's because MAGA picked them up. And there is political affiliation there. Everybody else wants to stop these kidnapping sex traffickers. Trump wants to protect the kidnapping sex traffickers. The FBI wants to protect the kidnapping sex traffickers. Well, I'm just saying, like, I was guessing that the kid had been kidnapped, and that's why they didn't find him. Who probably kidnapped him? A MAGA. Who probably kidnapped him? A Trump-ooteneer. Because what are Trump-ooteneers? They're Nazis and they're child molesters. That's what they are. That's the definition of Trump-ooteneer. If you take a Nazi and you add child molesting to it, you get a Trump-ooteneer. This is just math. Everybody knows that's what these guys are. So, what do you mean you went straight for the worst, which is part of experience? See, this person is a Proud Boy. They're a Nazi. Okay? They're bragging about being a Nazi Proud Boy. Being a Proud Boy, they know they're a Nazi. They know they've betrayed the things that their grandparents fought wars against. Their grandparents may have died, or their grandparents definitely had friends who died to fight these Nazis. And they're betraying those grandparents and those grandparents' friends to be Nazis for Trump and Putin. They're betraying Jesus. They're betraying guns. They're betraying America. They're betraying humanity. They're betraying the earth. They're betraying all good spirits. They're betraying their ancestors. They're betraying their history. They're betraying everything for Trump and Putin. That's all the fuck they get out of it. Trump and Putin. I'm going to curse them. Curse you, motherfucking shadow band. Curse Trump and Putin and Netanyahu through you. Then I'm going to go back to reading about how Jesus is going to replace their religion, Christianity, with the Church of Judas. Okay. Thanks for looking for that kid, but it's not an example of things being non-political because, again, the kidnappers are MAGA. If you're worried about kids getting kidnapped, we need to lock up MAGA. So this is basically just how Jesus selects Judas for the secret teaching, but also his first indication of things to come. You could argue if someone wrote this years afterwards and just made it all up, they would know that Judas had been scorned, and so having Jesus predict this in advance, even that would be even that he would be replaced among the disciples, is no real big trick. But being able to predict that all this would stay hidden for ages is a big trick, and makes the closer prediction seem like it really happened. All of this seems like the kind of stuff Jesus says, just as the more intense end of the spectrum. He says he will tell them about the mysteries of the kingdom, not so that you'll go there. And this is a really interesting phrase. If the kingdom is as we often think about it, heaven, and that means where you go after you die, but Jesus is saying Judas won't go there, is he saying Judas won't die at all? What if in a very back cave of Where if in the very back of the cave of horrors, after they bring out more skulls and baskets and mummies, they just find Judas chilling there, still alive? Or if Judas is the first vampire, as indicated by certain traditions. Or if he means heaven or some other way than the afterlife heaven, more like heaven that is at hand, why does he say Judas will not go there? Why not? Or maybe he means some other kind of heaven, like advanced alien planet, and he is going to tell Judas about it, but just letting him know he won't actually go. Or could it mean something else entirely? Maybe the secrets he tells Judas, and now us, about it will reveal the mystery. Let's read on. Oh, and why are the 12 disciples also the 12 elements before their God? What does that elemental meaning mean? The phrasing suggests that Jesus is saying, I am giving you this secret knowledge because you are missing your place among the elements. But it also seems like he is saying, because I am giving you this secret knowledge, you will be replaced among the elements. The elements before God makes me think of a formula, and all different disciples, like chemicals in a combination, are elements in a molecule. This could be like the spirit molecule, what Timothy Leary called LSD. But what if the formula were altered? What if one of the 12 elements was replaced, making a similar compound or formula, but the element could be restored to its place, would be even more powerful? This is some alchemical analogy I am not knowledgeable enough to explore, but I wanted to suggest it to those who are, or others who are curious to ponder these things. It also reminds me how there are 12 signs of the zodiac, though Jesus seemed to be mocking their God, and his stars were getting angry with their souls. I guess he could have been saying, why are you asking for God's favor on your bread when you obviously have God's favor in my presence? Which is ironic because of the years since the idea that we eat bread and wine as communion to reconnect with Jesus. That is one way he was especially with us. Or maybe it is the same old blessing of the bread that we had before Jesus, and he thought that was kind of funny. We keep doing it, even a version that has his brand on it, but is missing the point he was trying to show us. Back to the Gospel of Judas. Judas said to him, when will you tell me these things, and when will the great day of light dawn for the generation? But when he said these things, Jesus left him. Why did Jesus leave when he asked these questions? This is my part. Maybe it was not a response to the questions, or he just did not answer them. Or maybe it was Jesus indicating that he was asking the wrong questions. My impression is that Judas was still in a somewhat worldly state of mind, asking about things within their tradition, not as elevated as he needed to be to hear what Jesus was ready to tell him. So Jesus had recognized his elevated state of mind and wanted to help him understand more. They will talk more about a generation in the next section. I just read a little ahead. So maybe it will explain whether Jesus was avoiding or answering Judas's question. Also, this is the end of the first of 8 days, as the story picks up on the next day, on day 2. Let me read you guys' comments. This is the Gospel of Judas. This was kept out of the Bible. And you can probably tell why. Fuck the Proud Boy. Yeah, dude, everybody hates you. Just keep in mind, everybody hates you, stupid fucking Nazis. Just keep in mind, on the internet, just because you got Nazis from all over the world gathered together in order to make you feel fucking special and belonging. In the real fucking world, everybody hates you fucking Nazi MAGA pieces of shit. And if you're just trolling as a MAGA, it's even fucking worse, dude. You like double lost your soul. MAGA rules, Dims drool. Dude, you're such a fucking Nazi piece of shit. Yeah, Shadowban's a troll. But again, you are what you pretend to be. He spends all his life trolling as a Nazi Klansman. He's a Nazi Klansman. It doesn't make him not a Nazi Klansman. He can sit there and be like, oh, but I'm not really a Nazi Klansman. I don't have a burning cross. And it's like, no, but you said all the Nazi Klansman stuff. You claim to be a Proud Boy. I mean, he's obviously a Proud Boy. Like, he's not just a troll. It's just all MAGA are trolls. All MAGA are is trolls. All MAGA are nothing but trolls. There's nothing other than trolling in what they are, in billions of dollars, you know. How do we know if Jesus was even real? This is the best proof that Jesus is real, but it's also the best proof that churches are antichrist. Like the Gospel of Judas, not my book. The Gospel of Judas that it's based on is the best proof that Jesus is real, but it also proves the churches are antichrist. So the churches aren't going to tell you about it because it replaces them. So it shows that they love their church more than they love Jesus, because they would, you know, if you think about what church claims, what Christians claim to believe, they claim to believe in Jesus. So if something could prove Jesus to the world, you'd think they'd be interested in it. The Gospel of Judas has been known for 20 years. There's been 20 years, and I'm the only person who talks about it on the entire planet. Other people who might mention it don't have the full import of it. And there's only 2 of them. I've only seen like 2 or 3 people in the entire world mention it so far. It's 2026. 20 years after this was published in National Geographic. Okay, the Nazi said, I've been calling the ice tip line in a lot lately. Call on some synagogues. Call on some Russian Orthodox churches. While you're calling the ice tip line, call for synagogues and Russian Orthodox churches. I dare you, stupid fucking troll. Yeah, he is a terrorist. BMX dude said you sound like a terrorist. Yeah, if he's calling the ice tip line, he's a terrorist. He's basically saying he's a terrorist. If the FBI was worth a shit, they'd be tracking down these ICE terrorists and they'd be tracking down anybody supporting these ICE terrorists. But apparently the FBI is working with the ICE terrorists. So we have a Federal Bureau of Investigation that's been compromised and become a terrorist network. It's just Timu KGB now. Shadow Ben is a coward that I'll meet anytime, anywhere. In fact, just Nazi hunters will hunt these people down in the future. Like, the only reason I let them talk is so they can produce content that the Nazi hunters can track, so they can hunt them down in the future. And the people that investigate the FBI for not doing their investigations can hunt them down in the future. Yeah, Trump is a troll. I don't know that he's king troll. He's like prince troll. He's like a prince troll. Putin's his daddy Vladdy. Donica Putinsky is just Putin Jr. You know, Donica Putinsky is just a wannabe Putin. So these guys all suck up to a wannabe Putin. Putin's stupid as fuck, dude. Putin took over America, and instead of profiting from it or benefiting from having taken over America, he's just, destroy USA, payback for USSR. Like a 40-year-old fucking vengeance. And all these stupid Nazis are helping. The FBI's helping, because they're a bunch of fucking Nazi traitors. So, I'll read it. Do you have a link or where I can get it? Just look up Gospel of Judas. It's not even that long. If you want to read my book, it's called The Book of Judas, where I explain things about it. I have the Gospel of Judas in here, and then I explain things about it. But I'm going to write another book that's going to be shorter and cheaper. So look out for that one. But if you want to check out The Book of Judas, you can. Or just check out my hashtag Church of Judas. Check out hashtag Church of Judas on YouTube, and you'll find a lot of my content to talk about it. I would love to talk to you in comments on those videos, so we can have a ongoing conversation besides just in the live. But you can look up the Gospel of Judas for free. Just look up the Gospel of Judas, read it online, and decide what you think about it. That's the other great thing about the Church of Judas replacing the Christian church, is the Christian church is all about authority and whose chains of authority and this authority and that authority, just like Shia and Sunni Islam. Just a bunch of bullshit, right? And all these people don't have authority. You know, half the time the authorities are just using their authority to rape kids. So fuck them, right? All the authorities are bullshit. But the nice thing about the Church of Judas is the authority is just the truth. There's a truth that can be proven. You can prove it. You can probably say it to somebody better than I can say it to somebody. So you're a better representative of the truth than I am. I could be the first person to be talking about it, but I might not talk about it that well. Somebody else might find a really clever way to TikTok this information and become the face of the Church of Judas, and good for them. And then somebody else will do it for somebody else. There's no authority. There's no, like, you could be getting in on the ground floor, but it's not going to, your Bitcoin isn't going to be worth $1 billion in the future. It's just, you were one of the first people to do this. That's all I get out of it, is I'm one of the first people to do it. But, It's not, I'm not going to be the top of the pyramid chain or something where I get all the money or something like that. That's not how it works. We're actually getting rid of the church's money. The purpose of repurposing the churches is you already have these huge caches of money, like the Catholic and Mormon churches are some of the richest organizations in the world. Just take that money. Take that money and give it to people that the churches wronged to get there. Simple. It's just reparations. You make reparations in such a spectacular fashion that nobody else can even try to reparations like you reparations, but they will try because it'll be a real feel-good type of thing to do. Okay, let me read you guys' comments. We're going to shut down the live. We're just going to do comments, questions, and answers, and we'll shut down the live. Jess said, I've already got my block party planned for the big, beautiful obituary. I need to get noise blowers. I just at least want to go on live and go, and have those things that curl out. I want to have that. I mean, I want to bake a cake. I kind of want to bake a cake every week or so, but I haven't even baked cake one. So how am I prepared? But I'm glad you have a block party planned. I wish it was on my block. That's awesome. I hope that there's news. I haven't been paying attention to the news lately. Again, if there's this thing about does hate keep love alive? Well, if my magic of hating Trump every day for these 10, 12 years has kept him alive, well, I'm 50-foot eyesore in this shit. Just don't look. I'm letting him go. So hopefully you're ready for that too. Every religion has been altered by time and war. Well, I think that by transitioning Christianity from God to the goddess, it's going to be such a drastic change of Christianity that every other religion will say, wait, did you guys hear what just happened to Christianity? And they'll see if they want to apply some of those same lessons to their own religion. So extracting patriarchy from all religions is probably going to be a good outcome of this. But I don't concern myself with the other religions. I'm just going to fix and replace Christianity. There are a couple of videos about the Dead Sea Scrolls. I mean, yeah, people talk a little bit about some of this stuff, but hardly anybody talks about Church of Judas. I'm confident to say I'm the only one. I'm the only person taking this seriously. So thank you for taking it seriously by listening to me. Church of Judas replaces all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism. If you're just coming to the live, what we're talking about is ending Trumpism, ending war, ending patriarchy, ending Christianity with the Church of Judas, with Jesus' secret plan that he gave Judas. So look up Gospel of Judas, check out my hashtag Church of Judas, check out my book, The Book of Judas, or we'll come back to another live when we talk about it in the future. Be the first to do what? To replace Oh, you don't matter, dude. You're BMX, dude. You're a MAGA. I'm open to reading your book. Truth is within all hearts. It comes down to choices. Oh, you'll like the book. I mean, I read you some selections of it, so I hope you like it. The day they start handing out the reparations is the day I stop paying taxes. Dude, nobody cares about you. You're the life that doesn't matter. You're the stupid Nazi troll. All you're here for is to take a curse back to your daddy Vladdy, Putin, to take a curse back to Donna Kupatinsky. Donna Kupatinsky can suck the curse out of you just like he sucked your soul out. To take this curse back to Bibi. I curse you in the name of Judas. I curse you, you sorry motherfucker. I curse you in the name of the original vampire. Fuck you, you piece of shit. 3 more years, baby. No. I'd be surprised if you last 3 more weeks, 3 more days. It's going down, bitch, and you're going down with it. You dumb fuck Nazi. Trump is living the rent-free in the head every single day. No, dude, that's an AOC joke. It's not even funny if you replace AOC with Trump. Now, it will be amazing if we replace Trump with AOC. If we put AOC in the White House instead of Trump. That'd be great. I don't see how they could not do that at this point. They've been trying to hitch to Gavin Newsom as much as they can. They can't do it. He's a piece of shit. Nobody likes him. He's done. He talked to Ben Shapiro. He toasted his political career talking to Ben Shapiro. My beginning of moving away from the church was dating a fairy. Are you still in touch with this fairy? Are you still dating the fairy? If not, would you introduce me to her? Yeah, Shadow Ban, remember, you'll be hunted. Like, Nazi hunters is a noble profession. Okay. Sorry about the Nazis in chat. I'll finish it off with the blessing from Church of Judas, unless you guys have any more questions about Judas replacing all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism. The best and most effective way to end Trumpism, to end all patriarchy, Christianity, and to end war is just help Judas replace Christianity with Church of Judas. Help Jesus replace Christianity with the Church of Judas. So I'm doing my part. Thanks. You're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. What can I say except you're welcome? You're welcome. And I'll say the goddess blessing for you. Goddess bless you, Mary bless you, Mary bless you, Mary bless you, Jesus bless you, Judas bless you, I bless you, and bless yourself. Thank y'all for being here. Check out the content. Stay in touch with a comment. Thanks. Yeah, it'll be better when I focus more. No, not anymore. She was a prima ballerina. Oh, dude. Put me in touch with her. Is she married or something? I want to date a fairy. Damn. Well, congratulations, Benny. I'll say that. I'm sorry that didn't go as it once went, but congratulations on dating a fairy and prima ballerina. That's amazing. So, thanks. And see you guys next time. Hopefully the trolls will never see you again. Or trolls. Again, in order to end the curses that I continuously put on you, you guys got to betray Trump. That's the only way. Come back to Jesus, betray Trump, betray the Antichrist Trump, come back to Jesus, or curses are going to have bad effects in your lives. Just saying. Like, all you got to do is remember what I'm telling you right now, or go ahead and do it. Betray Trump. Betray the pedophile, terrorist, Nazi traitor, Antichrist Trump, and embrace Jesus. Jesus is waiting for you to betray the Antichrist Trump. All this stuff that's coming out in the Epstein files about all this snuff films and all the stuff he did, dude, you're going to look really, really bad continuing to support Trump in February 2026. Like, it's been bad, but it's getting worse. Look up Sasha Riley. Believe victims. Look up Sasha Riley, and y'all can fuck off. Bill Clinton can fuck off too. Anyway, thanks everybody for being here for the Church of Judas. Welcome to the Church of Judas. Jesus set Judas aside to replace all patriarchy, Christianity, war, and Trumpism, and we can help. So let's do it. Thanks. See you guys soon.